And welcome back, everybody, to the Old Gab Box radio show and podcast. Glad I'm back. Excited about the Ryder Cup, and all this brought to you by our good friends at Casa de Campo in the Dominican Republic. Pete Dye has 4 courses down there. Teeth of the Dog will reopen in December, and our good friend Jerry Payne, his company's been redoing the entire Teeth of the Dog golf course. Cannot wait. Again, they cut the ribbon in December. I'll be there. Love the DR, love Casa de Campo. Check out casadecampo.com. All right, our next guest, man, I've been trying to get Paul Azinger, the Zinger, on the show for a while. He's a busy guy. And let me just say this about Paul Azinger. Obviously, it goes without saying, great golfer, World Golf Hall of Famer, Ryder Cup fame, et cetera, et cetera. But Paul is just, listen, he's a longtime friend and he's a Hall of Fame person. And that's why I wanted to get him on. And Paul, man, it's so good to see you, my friend. It really is. It looks like you're doing pretty good down there in Ponte Vedra, Florida right now.
Not too bad. I got a great view. Thanks for all those kind words, by the way, Doug. I feel the same about you, though. And sorry it's taken so long to get on the show. But
No.
yeah, I'm sitting here in Jacksonville, going to do the Champs Tour. They're out at Pebble Beach, and I'm looking forward to 3 hours, and that's from 6 to 9. So that'll be all right. That'll be fun to do.
Yeah, that'll be good. And the weather looks pretty good out at Pebble Beach. Sometimes that's a hit or miss proposition, but it looks like they've caught it at a pretty good time. So that'll be a lot of fun. And Pebble Beach is still Pebble Beach. I don't care what you say. I don't care whether you're a 20-year-old or a 50, 60, or in Bernard Langer's case, 68-year-old, whatever he is. It's still fun to be at Pebble, right?
Yeah, it's really a magnificent place. I mean, it's my favorite course. I've played all over the world. I think Pebble's probably got to be the favorite. The temperature's the same all the time until it gets cold.
Yeah, right. And we've all been there. Hey, before we talk Ryder Cup, I do want to compliment you on you were the recipient of the Payne Stewart Award and your speech prior to the Tour Championship. And I know some of it was on teleprompter and you kind of went off and did your own thing, which I really appreciate. Dan Hicks was awesome in introducing you. But I know you and Payne were about as close as two people could be. I know that was very special. And what a speech, Paul. One of the best I've ever heard in a situation like that.
Well, I appreciate it. It was hard to wait 6 weeks to give the speech, I can tell you.
Mm.
But yeah, I had a great time while I was there. Got there 3 days before giving that speech, and got a little work in the about 3 or 4 hours beforehand on the teleprompter. It was the only time we practiced, and it was pretty rough, I thought.
Sure.
But I thought the speech ended up being good, and I made it picked it apart a little bit myself. But I really am glad I got through that. And Payne and I were dear friends. It was a great honor to get that award. The Payne Stewart Award represents mostly, I feel, his character and his charitable giving. And, he just was a top notch person. He was always fun to be around. One thing I wish I would have said when I was up there, though, Doug, was that it's not really a goody two shoes award either. None of us that got the award are all, a bunch of goody two shoes. We're all kind of have our foibles for sure, but we all try to do our best. And I think Payne always tried to do his best. He gave his money away. I shared that story during the speech after Bay Hill. That shocked me. But it was his heart for people. He saw, that he really wasn't the kind of person he wanted to be when he wasn't playing well. And he publicly declared that he would be better. And I was like, wow, I thought he was pretty good anyway. But then he was better. And he just became really the guy that knew how to behave the best.
Yeah, an incredible person. And on my shelf above my shoulder there is a great picture I have of Payne Stewart and myself, his arms on my shoulder. And listen, I interviewed Payne, or would see him here and there, but he was one of those special people. When you saw him, he made you feel like you were the best of friends and went back 40 years. And that's a special quality not many people have. And I thought the world of the guy, I really did.
Yeah, I think the fact that his legacy's been kept alive is so great. And I was proud to get that award in his name. I think Tracy Stewart has been a great wife to her deceased husband, and she has kept his legacy alive. And I just love Tracy. She's been great. She had never even looked at another guy, I don't think. So, no, she'd never dated or anything. She loves her life. She loved her husband. It was cool. I really appreciated being able to share about our charity, and all that.
Yes.
And just a great opportunity to still have a little bit of influence, in the game. And it was just a great night.
Yeah, job well done, Paul. Really, Paul, job well done. All right, let's talk Ryder Cup because, listen, I saw a great interview with Lanny Watkins this week on golf, and he mentioned you. And Lanny loved the Ryder Cup. Man, he loved captaining the Ryder Cup. He loved playing in the Ryder Cup.
He did.
Same with you. I mean, even though you won't be involved as a captain, or I don't know if you'll be there or not, but I mean, this has got to be a special week for you too, right, Zinger?
Well, it's going to be a relaxed week for me because I'm not
Yeah,
broadcasting it or playing in it or captaining it for the first time in a long time. And that was my last ever broadcast there with NBC. And it was my favorite broadcast, too, that I've ever been involved in because even though Europe took us to task in that match, we were ahead of it the whole way. You know, the way Europe prepared, you know, how the American team came in unprepared. And, you know, Europe practiced in 3 whole matches and they had money games and their philosophy was to get off to a quick start. And that's what they did to us, you know, right out of the gate. And, but anyway, I will miss not being there as a player, but it's going to be very relaxing for me. I am doing several outings, which will be really fun. And I'm going to be on that first tee because there's nothing quite like the Friday morning, the first day, Ryder Cup, especially alternate shot. You only get to watch one guy hit out of each group, but boy, you feel for him. I tell you, you
yeah.
feel for that guy.
You know, it's interesting, and I've read the book, and I've seen all the YouTube stuff and the special they did on golf, and your pod system and what went into that was so unique and obviously very successful at Valhalla as it all played out, and these golfers all played together and were just perfect fits, the chemistry, and that's what it's all about is chemistry. I guess, Paul, how come other people haven't followed that? I mean, is that just that was unique to you and your personality and what you believed in?
Well, I think first and foremost, I surrounded myself with great people right out of the gate. I had already had the Navy SEALs concept to team building in my head. You know, they take large groups, they make small groups, and they bond them. They bond. It's like a linebacker core in the NFL or something, you know, or the infielders. They bond a
Right.
certain way, and so I felt like that was a big part of what we wanted to do at our Ryder Cup, and you know, that's what happened.
It
They
worked.
played great.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, you know, in the end, I got them comfortable enough that they played great. The bottom line, you know, we used the Navy SEALs concept, we used the small groups, we used Myers Briggs, put them together by like personality. And I think if I were to reflect back, you know, I did get great people around me. You know, when you ask me, how does you come up with this? It was really kind of Ron Braun's idea, Dr. Braun, to put the personality types together. And I picked Olin Brown as one of my assistants, and we just observed the players and determined, you know, whether they were kind of dominant personalities, controlling or influencers or, you know, influencing relators, whatever. Ron Braun put them together using the Myers Briggs green light, caution light, red light, and we just got all the green lights together. There was no red lights. There was no Tiger Phil, which is a red light personality conflict. You know, we stayed away from that. I think it made a big difference because guys with like personalities don't mind hanging out together either, do they? And they prepared together. And I messaged them, you know, there's no cut to success. We can't hope for it or wish for it. We have to prepare, and we have to out prepare Europe. And they're going to prepare together in their 4-man groups, and that's what they did. I think in the end, when I say I'm going to reflect back on that, whatever we did when we created this environment or this particular structure, they played relaxed. They played the best golf they could possibly play. You know, you got Boo Weekley shooting 29 in singles on
right,
Sunday, the front nine,
right.
and you got Kenny Perry shooting 30 or 31 on the front nine. You know, these guys were playing the best golf of their life in the most really pressure packed thing you could ever do. And so whatever we did, it got the best out of those guys. They weren't too nervous to get through. So we created the right environment. But in the end, I just surrounded myself with good people. Raymond Floyd, Dave Stockton, Olin Brown, great
Wow.
assistants,
Yeah.
and Ron Braun. And everybody just bonded. It was great.
Well, and it is about chemistry. And you hear football coaches and basketball coaches, baseball managers talk about the chemistry in the locker room. It's great to have talent, but if you don't get along, if you don't mesh, if you don't know your roles, and this is the one time that golf can take on a team perspective and zing, man, chemistry is what it's all about, as you discovered.
Well, and if you're the 12 best Americans that make the team, you're going to have tons of talent. So we already have talent,
Right.
and I felt like, a couple great compliments. You said you read the Cracking the Code book, but one thing that Furyk said was it was the first time he'd ever been at a Ryder Cup where he wasn't as concerned about his game, but how he could help make the players around him
Wow.
better.
Wow.
No, now if he got that part out of that, he truly got it, because that was really kind of the message too. How can we make everyone around us better? How can this pod? How are you going to attack this? How are you this pod going to play the course? They told me I empowered them too. They picked who filled out their pod, and I gave them ownership of their pod. They told me who would play alternate shot and who would play best ball, and they went out. They were empowered. They did their own thing. They called the shots.
Yeah.
Once the bell rang, it was like they called the shot.
Yeah. No, it was special. It really was. That was a lot of fun. And the crowd was crazy there
Yeah.
in Kentucky, that year. And I wanted to ask you this. It's interesting. And you've been involved with the Ryder Cup forever. And the Europeans have always had the chip on their shoulder. Even going back to Sevi, it's like, hey, we're the Euros. We come from humble beginnings. We played together, traveling here, there, and everywhere. And the courses weren't always the greatest, blah, blah, blah. And they still have that moniker now, Paul, which I find fascinating because all these guys play on the PGA Tour. They all have homes in the United States. I mean, Sepp Straka lives up down the street from me here in Birmingham, Alabama. So they're about as Americanized as you can be. Have they played that out too much, Paul, or is that still legitimate? What they always talk about?
It's legit. We just know them way better than we used to. They don't play the European Tour nearly as much. We all know
Right.
each other better. We didn't know I didn't know who Faldo was. I never heard of Colin Montgomery or Steven Richardson or, Barry Lane or any of those names.
Right.
I didn't know those guys. Jimenez, I didn't know who that was. I don't think I knew who Faldo was, to be honest with you.
Right.
In 89, or no, in 89 I did by then, because he'd already got me in 87. But
Right.
there was just some of those guys you just didn't know who they were. Most of them are in the Hall of Fame now. And we really were the generation that kind of gave maybe great birth to interest in the United States. Because really, it all started happening in 85 when they won in Europe. Then in 87, they won at Jack's Place at Muirfield Village. I wasn't on that team. And then, you know, they won, 89 was a tie. I was on that team. And then we had the War on the Shore, which made really
Epic.
prime time because of a rain
Right.
delay at NASCAR. The War on the Shore made prime time. And there was phone calls saying, "Why is this on my TV?" by the higher ups at NBC. And we didn't have a grandstand behind the first tee at Kiowa. And now look what it's morphed into.
Yeah, I mean, it's morphed into what is going to be an epic week. I mean, I just can't believe they're having like the celebrity Ryder Cup with like Bobby Flay and Miranda Lambert, Catherine Zeta-Jones playing for the Euros. I mean, Paul, this has evolved into this is bigger than big. I mean, this is unbelievable what this Ryder Cup's going to be in New York City.
I can't imagine, I hope the crowd's not unruly. I hope they all understand, how to behave. There's going to be a great responsibility there for them and, the people that watch over each other in that crowd. It's going to be crazy. Playing the U.S. Open there was insane. The year, I think it was the year Tiger won. Man, it was unreal. They're going to have fun, or, maybe not. It depends. I hope the Americans can keep the crowd on their side. If they can get off to a great start the first day, then the Americans, especially the first morning, will hold the crowd. If Europe comes out thumping, watch out. I think the crowd could shift.
I just, I know what a New York crowd is all about, Paul. I mean, we've seen it. And
Yeah.
It's going to be over the top in this occasion. And, I think of Robert McIntyre, Bob, he's an emotional guy. John Rahm can be very emotional.
Yeah,
Rory
for sure.
can be emotional.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if the New York crowd starts getting on these guys now, they may be emboldened. They may embrace it. I don't know. But I think it's going to be more of a home course advantage than we've ever had in the Ryder Cup. And we've had some good ones. Valhalla was a good one. But I just think this is going to be so one-sided in the favor of the USA.
Well, I disagree with you. I feel like, not that they're not going to be the loudest American
Yeah.
crowd ever, but I think Europe's going to be well represented.
Okay.
You know, remember at Whistling Straits, they weren't even there, I don't feel. They couldn't cross over because of the COVID and all that.
Right.
So this is the next home game. And you know they show up. You've seen it, how it is. They have their songs, and I feel like the first tee they're going to be well represented by the Europeans. And overall, though, we do have a tremendous advantage. But I've seen the crowd turn on the Americans. You know, they did. And I just think that the heckling could go the other way, too,
Hmm.
if you're not careful.
Well,
So
yeah.
that's an added pressure. I really have urged Keegan through text messaging to try to encourage his players, you know, to prepare to be ready to start fast. And that's what Luke did in Italy. He had his guys preparing 3 whole matches for money. And the idea was you didn't get off to a fast start in a 3 whole match, you were going to lose. So, and it worked. Their mindset was to start fast. And if you go back and watch that tournament, and we watched them prepare, we found out that's what they were doing. And they killed us the first 3 holes every day.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be big. I mean, so you start with the foursomes, the alternate shot. Let me ask you this, Paul, because and for our golf fans who are listening, the serious golf fans, you know, when you go alternate shot, you get to decide on one golf ball. DeChambeau, incredible talent, but you know he hits that special golf ball he started playing with this year, the low trajectory ball, because he hits it so high. I think Cameron Young is the only other guy who even hits that ball. I'll be interested to see if Bryson plays in the alternate shot because of the golf ball thing. Super talent, but I mean, you got to decide these things, right?
Yeah, there's no easy decisions. I feel like their preparation is going to be huge. I told Keegan to rely on their prep, make sure that they feel like they're out preparing Europe, but he's got to watch how they prepare. And his assistants really need to pay attention before the tournament starts. After the tournament starts, you know, there's only so much you can do. But prior to, you have to know who's making birdies and who's hitting it sideways and who's not. You have to understand who peaks, you know, when the bell rings and who doesn't. And so, but mainly you have to trust the player. You know, conversations with the players are important. And trust me, also, the caddies are big, you know, they're honest. They're a big part of, you know, yes or no, my guy's got it this week or my guy doesn't have it this week. Or we're scrappers, put us out there. The caddies will tell you the truth. And there's a lot of digging for Keegan to do because I don't think he's going with the pod system. The pod system took all that out. I had none of that because of the pod system. I had none of that. He's got so many characters to mix and match. I feel for him.
Yes, he does. But that's kind of the modern game. You know, it's interesting for Sunday, too, Paul. I wanted to ask you this because the singles are so exciting. And I remember when the Euros came back at Medina, and that's when Keegan really got involved the first time he played. And Davis now admits, you know, he said, Euros front-loaded. They were behind. Let's put our best guys out there. Rory out front, beat Keegan in the first match. Davis said, maybe I should have, you know, changed it up, the batting order up a little bit. On Sunday this time around, I mean, is there any chance, Paul, you have a Rory versus Scotty match? Is that just not going to happen?
I think, let me just think about this a second. I think that Luke is savvy enough to make a request like that to try to get his best player on Scheffler to try to, that's what you want. You know, if
Yeah.
you're Luke, you're going to look for Scotty Scheffler. And if you're Keegan, you have to hide him. Now, I mean, to me, every time Tiger was on a Ryder Cup team, he was first match out. He was the easiest guy to find. And inevitably, they had their hottest players on Tiger. And so I feel like the way Sheffy's been playing, they're going to target him and try to find him with their hottest player. And I'm going to speculate that he won't go first. That's all I'm going to tell you about that. But I don't want to spill the beans on anything early here.
I mean, as a fan, you're like, wouldn't that be awesome? Rory versus Scotty in the first match on Sunday?
I say Luke's savvy enough to request that because, and you know, that's for those that don't know, on Sunday we submit 12, they submit 12. And it's just blind who you pick up. I remember AK, Anthony Kim, kept saying, I want to play Sergio Zinger. I want to play Sergio. And I mentioned it to Faldo, and he said, no, don't want to do that. And I was like, all right, because I was thinking I wanted to, let's just give him what he wants. And then it just fluked that Anthony Kim gets Sergio on Sunday. So we lucked out. But it would be great. I think that they're going to try to find Scheffler with Rory and you know, maybe who else does he play with? He'll play with Fleetwood or he'll play with, who's the Irishman?
Shane Lowry.
Shane Lowry. He'll play with the The great Shane Lowry. Oh my gosh, that's a tough team either way.
Yeah, I mean Shane doesn't hit it a long way, but I guess he wouldn't have to necessarily if he's always playing with Rory, depending on the format. You know, it is interesting, and I guess Chef, he's going to play every session, right? I mean, you can't sit the best player in the world at all, can you?
Well, I don't think you can sit him day one. You could
Yeah,
sit him day
right.
two in the morning maybe,
Okay,
but I doubt it. I think, Scheffler hits it too good. I feel he'll play all five. He's in great shape. I ran into him at Jack's place up at Muirfield Village a few weeks back. And, when I first met Scheffler 6, 7 years ago, he was a little pudgy, and that's my brother calling me. Does that
that's okay.
ruin it?
No, go ahead. Keep going because I'll edit that out. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, no.
Good.
Go,
But
go.
Scheffler has to play all five matches, I think, don't you? You can't sit the guy. He leads every statistical category. So play, there's a saying, go to the well till the well runs dry. And I learned that saying from Ted Scott playing foosball. He was talking about a particular foosball pass on the wall or off the wall. And he would just hit, I said, you hit the same pass every time? He says, I go to the well till the well runs dry. I'm going to hit that shot till you figure out
Yeah,
how to block it.
might as
I'm
well.
playing Scheffler until Scheffler loses a match.
Yeah, I mean that's still Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Until they can block the sky hook, I'm just going to keep taking it. And
That's right.
they never knew how to block it. You know, it is interesting. You got me thinking about Scheffler. You know, he was really good in that Ryder Cup at Whistling Straits. Had not gotten a win
Yeah.
yet on the PGA Tour, right? And I
Right.
remember interviewing him in Mexico shortly after the Ryder Cup, and he said, "You just don't understand the pressure and how this has elevated my game." He said, having success at the Ryder Cup, he goes, his confidence level was just at an all-time high. And then obviously now he's taken off over the next 4 years. So this Ryder Cup is pretty special, Paul. It changes a lot of careers. And, when you hear players going, I want to be in the Ryder Cup because it's the best. It's the best thing I've ever played in. They're not exaggerating, are they?
No, they're not. It takes a different duck. Once you get there and you've done it and you realize, oh, I can do that, you have an advantage over every player that's not yet done it and isn't quite sure if they can handle that. I remember, saying a long time ago that I felt like major championships usually come after Ryder Cups. You
Yes.
play your first, and that's what Scotty Scheffler literally just said. I was on the broadcast at NBC several years setting him up for the win at the end, and he always, he came in second, he finally got his first win, and now the floodgates have opened. But it came after Ryder Cup, and this is something. It does something to you internally. If you play great in the Ryder Cup, it'll last. It'll carry with you for a long time. I beat Seve in singles in 1989, and I went on a crazy run after that in 1990. I don't even remember the numbers, but if you were to look up like the start of 90, you'd be like, holy cow, this guy played great for a long stretch after beating Seve in singles.
Mm.
And that's just what happens. It happened to Scheffler. It could go the other way too. You can see a guy have a bad Ryder Cup and never hear from him again. We think about Calcavecchi when you talk about like big failings at a
Yeah.
Ryder Cup because he had trouble there at 17 at Kiel with the hardest hole in the world. But Calcavecchi has won tournaments since
Yes.
then. He totally put that behind him and came back and won tournaments. That's a sign of a real champion.
Yeah, no question. I love the Ryder Cup, and I love when you take me back to Seve and all the drama that he was involved in and how great he was. And of course, you beat him. I don't know. There's just so many awesome stories about the Ryder Cup. I simply can't wait. Hey, before we let you go, Paul, who you got as the winner then? Who's going to be hoisting Samuel Ryder's beautiful gold trophy there at the end of Sunday? Who you got?
Well, I tell you, I think that the United States should be about a 2.5 to 1 underdog, 3 to 1 underdog. Maybe not. At least a
Interesting.
more than a 2 to 1 underdog. I know it's a razor thin line. Every Ryder Cup is a razor thin line. I always feel like Europe comes in with an advantage because of the chip on their shoulder. I always like to give them about a 1% advantage before every Ryder Cup. And Vegas builds giant hotels on a 1% advantage. So I feel like home field gives us back to even, and the course is a push. But I feel they have so much confidence that they're going to be hard for us to beat. They're bringing 11 of the 12 players back.
Yes.
And the one guy that didn't play last time is an identical twin brother of the other guy, I think, or at
Rasmus,
least
yeah.
twin brother. So
It could be the other guy. We just don't know.
They're on a mission, and the mission is, you heard Rory declare how hard it is to win a Ryder Cup on foreign soil. I think this European team's on a mission. They're going to come in with purpose, and Keegan's got his hands full.
And
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, I love the intrigue too. I mean, you have a DeChambeau back, you have a Rahm back, so you have the names, right? I just think in golf terms, and I know we got college football Saturday, we'll have the NFL on Sunday, but I just think this is going to be one of those epic moments in the history of our game, which I think is going to be right up there. I mean, it's going to be talked about forever from here on out. I really think it's going to be that big, Paul.
Well, I'll tell you what, if the U.S. wins this Ryder Cup, it's going to be the craziest crowd that we've ever seen by a wide margin. And it should be a lot of fun because if they win, it will be an upset, in my opinion. And I just am rooting for them as hard as I can. I'm doing everything I can to, remind them about how to do the team room. And they're doing their analytics. They're doing everything. The American team's doing everything they need to do to win this Ryder Cup, I can tell you. But I still think they're underdogs.
Wow. I love it. I love it because that gives me, and that's why I wanted to get you on because you always got me thinking, Paul. You never you never agree with everybody. You always disagree a little bit. I'm like, if the Zinger's thinking that, I need to get a little deeper into this thing, right?
Well, I do know this because I've spent so much time around Gil Capps, the
Right.
statistician there at NBC. But if the U.S. doesn't win the first morning, they don't win. Usually, we have to win the first morning. In
Yes.
more modern times, since
Right.
Europe's starting to dominate us. And usually, when we do win the first morning, they come back and have a good afternoon on us. It's always been hard for us to beat those guys. If they win in the morning, we're in trouble. That's just historically, that's the reality. And you asked the question about, sitting some of your best players, early. When do you sit them? You don't sit them the first day. You certainly don't sit them the first morning. Not if you're the Americans. You will see America's best out there the first morning.
Yeah, can't wait. Can't wait to see who plays with Scotty. I know Sam Burns and him are tight, and they were pretty good. They've been pretty good in the past, so we'll have to just see how that all plays out. Good stuff, Zing. I appreciate it. Have fun talking about all that's going on at Pebble and beyond. And,
Yeah.
I guess you had fun talking about John Daly's 19 on a par 5, right?
I did not talk about that. I wasn't on that call, unfortunately, but I bet we talk about it today.
A cool 48 on his outward 9 there for JD.
Wow, that's something I would do right there.
And he bounced back with a birdie after the 19, so that's even more.
I played the Players Club this morning, and I'm on 17T. I was playing with Rob Sharp, our producer. We're both playing really good. I'm sitting there at even par thinking, how am I not 5 under par right now? Hit it in the water. Hit another one in the water, and I'm like, I'll go to the drop area. Hit it up there, made double, supposedly, and then made triple on 18. Like, how am I not 5 under?
That ruins a good day.
Oh. Anyway, I had to say that.
Zing, we appreciate it, my man.
My pleasure.
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks.